Great, thank you. There are some things in this presentation that Krista has covered, so I'll move fairly quickly through those. Generally, wanted to cover the project background, and Krista's really done that well, and the proposed overall project schedule, and then primarily focus on reviewing the alignment alternatives that are being reviewed with the public, and talk about the public involvement plan and the next steps with the City Council. As has been noted, the project replaces the First Hill Light Rail Station. In a regional context, we're in the midst of actually billions of dollars of investment in regional transit, and a lot of those investments, whether it be light rail, commuter rail, or Metro's Rapid Ride, are bringing fairly long-haul trips into the center city. And one of the things that we then look at is how do we move people around within the center city itself to maybe the last mile to get to their destination, and then also once they're there to circulate around different parts of the center city. And just reviewing sort of graphically the discussion of the First Hill Light Rail Station as originally proposed, a deep tunnel station at Madison and Summit, which, if you're familiar with the area, is where the Rite Aid is today. And when that was deleted, of course, the light rail alignment then doesn't serve First Hill. So Sound Transit looked at some alternative ways to provide a connection to First Hill, and streetcars emerged as their preference that they included in the regional measure that was approved in 2008. And some of the characteristics of streetcars that make them particularly effective as urban circulators is they're very easy to get on and off. They have low floors and wide doors like other rail transit. The ride quality, it's something comfortable for a short trip that may be crowded, but you may be a little bit more comfortable hopping on a streetcar, even if it's crowded, knowing you're not going to be jostling around. The fixed route gives people kind of a certainty and a confidence, even if they're not somebody who uses this route as part of their daily commute, that they understand where they're going. And the compatibility with urban neighborhoods that streetcars bring because they're small, quiet, and predictable. The interlocal agreement that the council approved last fall provides up to $132.8 million in capital funding, and that's in year of expenditure dollars. It also funds operations and maintenance. That's also capped. It's actually $5.2 million in 2007 dollars. And the city's responsible for design and construction, and the agreement also establishes that the alignment approval is a city council decision. With the preliminary proposed project schedule, has us moving toward construction in 2011 and in operations fall 2013. And so zeroing in on kind of where we are now, the first major decision is the alignment selection, and we are working toward an April action by the City Council. So with that.
I don't know if this is the right time to ask it, but do you have a sense of what $5 million in operations and maintenance gets us?
Sure. The operating plan, it's also actually spelled out in the interlocal agreement that this streetcar will operate 20 hours a day, and it will, so that's 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. most likely. So it's really designed to be compatible with Link Light Rail in terms of transfers. So some of these parameters of what the operating concept would be like are based on Link Light Rail operations. And then the frequency would be every 10 minutes during peak periods and every 15 minutes off peak.
Can that schedule be adjusted at the city's discretion?
Not purely at the city's discretion. I mean, if for some reason the operating funding weren't sufficient to provide that level of service, then there's a whole series of steps laid out in the interlocal agreement for how we would work with Sound Transit on either changing the service plan or increasing the funding.
So is it $5 million per year, or?
It's technically it's $5.2 million per year in 2007 dollars. So then you
okay,
escalate
so that would roughly pay for the service level you just
Well,
described?
and
in perpetuity?
actually, our analysis of that service plan is that it's more in the $4 million range is our current cost estimate for that service plan. So we have a pretty good cushion there. You know,
Because we've run into that problem at South Lake Union, right? Having
Yeah, I
shifts
have
in
a
maintenance.
question on that. What are you using as the hourly wage for, or hourly operation for the trolley?
we're basing it. We had a range in our analysis from at the high end about a little over 200 an hour, which is based on the South Lake Union streetcar, and at the low end something more like 175 an hour, which would assume some level of efficiencies from operating more than one system, because so the management and supervision and stuff is then spread over a broader base.
What's the hourly rate now for South Lake Union?
It's about 200. So that's
And the times between the streetcars is it 10 minutes or 15?
it's 15 minutes right now on the South Lake Union
And
line.
is that what we'd be using on this
No,
route?
it'd be 10 minutes in peaks and 15 minutes off peaks.
Okay.
But that 4 million number is taking the 200 an hour and multiplying it out over that more aggressive service plan, and then also includes on top of that an assumption of a depreciation contribution to fund long-term major maintenance.
So just for clarification, so the 4 million is based roughly on $200 an hour operating fee,
Right.
with 15-minute head times between.
10-minute peak
10.
and 15-minute off-peak,
I see.
20 hours a day.
And does that go all the way to Aloha, or just stop at?
No, that doesn't go all the way to Aloha. That's for the funded part of the line, which is to the Capitol Hill Station,
To Union.
International District.
John
Capitol
Street.
Hill
The,
Station.
It's John
what's the fare box, estimate of fare box, how close does it come to covering the cost of the maintenance and operation?
Well, in this case, for this project, we are not assuming that fare box recovery is an additional source above the funding that Sound Transit will provide for operations and maintenance. They will retain the fare box recovery, which, maybe on the one hand, we would like to be able to benefit from that, but on the other hand, we're not basing it on a forecast of fare box recovery. We're just basing it on their funding commitment.
Well, just for clarification, the route begins at Union Station, and it ends at John right now, with lots of variations, alternates or
Right.
alignments in between that we'll have to decide upon. But I think I've heard a couple of council members wonder, where does it start and where does it end? So if we start at the light rail station downtown at Union, and then it ends at John Street.
That was the original route under discussion.
Right.
And the numbers that Ethan is talking about is based on that route. But as
Right.
you'll see here,
There are a lot of
there's
alignments as to how do we
many other
get to John
alternatives they're
Street.
now
Right.
looking at.
But
Right.
that's the beginning of the end.
Ethan, the 5.2 million is in 2007 dollars.
Right.
But what does the memorandum of agreement say about inflation or how that increases?
It says that it will be provided in year of expenditure dollars, basically inflated to current year dollars. So
Okay, great.
that is probably already something like $6 million in 2010 dollars, and we actually have there's some information on that from the interlocal agreement